Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Justice Forum. I am Daren Jaime, and we thank you for joining us. If you're asking the question, what exactly is this show all about? Well, we take a look at the inequities that many people face. We promote civic engagement. We get multiple points of view. We have some great and interesting guests to talk about the topic of social justice. Well, we invite you to stay with us because the Social Justice Forum begins right now. And welcome back. Our first guest spent the majority of his career as a community organizer. He founded his own consulting company, and he focuses on connecting those that have those needs, specifically in his hometown borough of the Bronx. Joining us now discussing more is the Director of Government Affairs and Community Relations at Lehman College. We're pleased to have Marques Payne join us. And Marques, a very interesting role that you have when you talk about really government affairs and community relations and dealing with how things impact people. Share with us a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me on here, Daren. I appreciate you. Thank you for making time. I'm really fortunate actually to do this great work here in the Bronx, someplace like Lehman, storied cornerstone institution in the Bronx. I'm actually get the privilege of leveraging my social capital, all of the connections and network that I have on behalf of an institution that can need the resources, right? So I'm gathering this network of political and community leaders and leveraging those interests on behalf of CUNY Lehman College. And we do this by networking, reaching out, identifying funding opportunities, and then kind of galvanizing that support all towards the college. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and networking is a huge part of what you do, being able to tap into resources, connect people, and you yourself being connected. Talk to us about how important it is in that area of networking, because when we talk about social justice, many of the complaints that come in this area is a lack of access to resources. And so in your area and field of expertise, you have really the opportunity to meet a lot of people.
I mean, yeah, I think the saying is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? So this opportunity in my position particularly, it gives you the opportunity to be at the table. And I think networking has really been the kind of like the card key that has got me into the rooms where I needed to be at. And it really is what gets us a seat at the table. I always say God brings you two people, but what you do with them is up to you. And so, throughout my career, I've been fortunate enough to work for the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. I work with, Bronx Democratic County Committee, and going in those rooms and not just seeing these events as parties and opportunities to rub shoulders, but seeing them as opportunities to really build my network, right? Because it's not just who you know, is what they know you for, and do they know you, So being able to either invite people to events or give them opportunities where we could join forces on mutually interested endeavors, right? And being able to show and prove in that context is what really gives you the stepping stones, kind of the building blocks for you to kind of lend that support towards other areas that might be important. So if I work with a city council person or a state legislator on a cannabis initiative, and I was able to provide a platform and get people in the room to hear their, to kind of garner some support, now I'm able to leverage my success in that industry, in that area, and now lend it towards something that's going to be more favorable to an institution such as Lehman. And so just really, taking advantage of when you get invited to events and not just looking at them as an opportunity to party, but looking at them as an opportunity to kind of build your network, your kind of coalition of the willing, your net worth, so to speak, has really opened a lot of doors for me, and it really has kept them open.
Yeah, you opened the door to talking about networking in it as a whole. For somebody who's out there thinking about, how to effectively network, what has been some of the best advice that you can give in passing on and helping somebody navigate this networking opportunity? Because as you said, it's not just really about being in the room and just sitting there and enjoying the moment with these A-list people, so to speak, but it's really about capitalizing on that opportunity.
That's right. Well, I think just the top 3 or top 5 words of advice I would give, or, sayings, of course, I would say, proximity to power is not power, right? So, never feel just because you're next to power that makes you powerful. Being next to power is cool and all, but what you do with that resource is really where you're going to find your strength. Another thing I would say is know the room. Try your best to do research on people before you go into the room. Who's going to be there, whether it's the speakers or the staff. Staff is so very important. A lot of times they're the ones that keep the door open for you. I think number 3, I would also say, know that you're important. You're in that room for a reason. And that person who you're looking to talk to is just as curious as you are as to why you might be in that room. So, make that a point to prove and go out there and let them know. Number 2, nonverbal communication is important. Try your best to get comfortable. Nobody wants to talk to somebody that's nervous. So, if you could get yourself comfortable as soon as possible, it'll really, open more doors from you. I find if you're censored, you're able to kind of gravitate and draw people to you. And number 1, know that being in the room is important, but it's more important what you do after you leave that room. So, we're trying to collect cards and meet people and scan our phones and get LinkedIn and all of this networking that's taking place. But please try your best to leave from there and get in contact with these people within the next 24 to 48 hours if you can. Keep a self-contact. You're not the only person that person met. That person probably met 20 to 30 people in that very room. What's going to be the thing that's going to differentiate you? What's going to allow you to stand out? And most of the time, that's the follow-up, right? The follow-up and the follow-through is really what makes the difference. So being in the room is important, but really what you do after the room is probably the most important thing.
Well, being invited to the room is important, as you said, and you've mastered that in terms of being invited to the room with so many times that you have the opportunity with your community relations background to be able to network. But the other aspect of that is also you gather people in the room. I know that you have some events that you have going on as well. I want you to share a little bit about, because you have a suit and tie event, and bring our viewers into focus as to the purpose of the suit and tie event and what takes place there.
Yeah, so I also run an organization called Bronx Fathers Taking Action. Bronx Fathers Taking Action, we help organize and support the fatherhood efforts in the Bronx, as well as the city as a whole. So we affiliated with the New York City Dad Group, Real Dads Network, the Dad Gang, all of the fatherhood groups that are active in our beautiful city, and we create opportunities where we can support dads. So the suit and tie drive is something that we try to do to make sure that dads and soon to be fathers have the clothes that they need to either apply for jobs or, work their business or, go to work, whatever is their opportunity to do. We just want to make sure that we have a support system built around to, help people grow, as not only grow as parents, but grow as families. And additionally, we also have a Knicks game coming up at the end of the month. I want to say just on the 27th. That's where we'll be going to the Knicks for MSG for HBCU week, celebrating the HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. So we're bringing out a whole bunch of parents and their children with a group called Travel with Chaz. We're going to the Knicks game. It's going to be fantastic night just to celebrate the culture. And then the day before Father's Day, we do this great event on Father's Eve, we call it. And it's a flag football game in Morningside Park. And we bring out all the dads. We go to a restaurant afterwards, and it's free, and it's fun, and it's family-filled activities. And so we try to offer these things to the community at no cost, just because we just think it's important to, shout out to the dads and support them in any way that we can. And we're really just trying to remove the stigmas and excuses, the stigmas of people believing their fathers aren't around or active, and then the excuses, the reasons why, these things don't happen. So anything that we can do to remove those obstacles on behalf of a father, which is, in the best interest for a family, that's what we're here to do.
Unpack that stigma for me, because when we talk about fathers being present in the lives of their children and fathers being in the home, I know recent statistics show that when it comes to African-American fathers, we're just on par, doing better than the national average in terms of actually being in the home and also being present in the lives of kids, even if you're not in the home.
That's right. That's right. And I appreciate you saying unpack that, right? Because, a lot of it, we're really just correcting, the misperception. that African American fathers are not around or active. And a lot of times, you know, you see the math scores increase, you see reading, you see verbal communication, and those things increase when the father's around. But even if a father is not in the house, that doesn't mean they're not around. And I think we have to create opportunities to give, you know, fathers active and easy opportunities to be involved and to make an impact. And so we try our best to just show it. You know, I think more than anything, we're, you know, correcting at least a decade's worth of, you know, contrasting imagery to show that fathers weren't there. We're like, hey, no, we're here. Here, we're sending you the pictures. We was at this event. We're in the schools. I'm reading to the children. There's a problem with my daughter's school. I make sure that I'm one of the first people to have the conversations. I'm reaching out to other dads and I'm saying, hey, other dad, my daughter has a problem with your daughter. Let's see if there's a way that we could work it out. It's a lot of times once the kids see that the fathers have a way of communication, or the parents, and it's peaceful, you know, it tends to build the bridge. And that's what we're doing, man. We're bridge builders every day.
Bridge building is important. For you, what does it mean for you really to be able to gel together, fathers back with families and community? Because you got a lot of different passions, but this is a particular passion of yours where you're actually able to get fathers to be able to gel together with both family and community. So tell me about that. And then also tell me, what's the reception that you get from fathers when you have these conversations? Because there's always this stigma that men are not always forthcoming or wanting to be active in such activities, but you got the boots on the ground. What are you finding?
Yeah, you know, you're asking really good questions, Daren. I mean, that's why you're
D
on
is fine, man. They call me D too. That's all right.
For real, you asking good questions, D. That's why you're on that side of the camera. But you know, it creates an environment that will surprise you. You know, whether it's dads coming together and talking about, you know, their health issues, or you know how beneficial it is just for me as a young father to be able to look down the road and see, you know, older fathers just giving me insight. You know, just offering insight on what it's like, some of the challenges that we face. We go into schools, and I mean, you should just see the way that dads are just so happy. Many of us are under the misperception that we fight in this fight alone. You know, many of us believe that, you know, that fathers being active are few and far in between, when it's actually quite the opposite. You know, there's dads and every day in every neighborhood that are coming, bringing their children to work, picking them up from school, you know, reading to them, going to the class, going on trips, and you know, really just to have an environment, just to have a group, or just to be able to see yourself and another father. It's so supportive and so encouraging. I mean, it's quite moving actually most of the time. Just when fathers are in the environment, just when they look around and they see that they're not the only ones that's fighting this fight, or even just having an opportunity to just share the hardships that are involved, how difficult it can be, you know, the obstacles that we deal with. You know, nobody will understand the distance a father is willing to go to spend time with their child like another father, you know. And it really just helps you just have a sense of pride and bring you great strength to know that you're not by yourself, you know. And even in myself, I gladly boast there's not a deadbeat father in my circle, you know, and that's personally, professionally, my family. You know, we expel the deadbeats from the community. You know what I mean? That's not something that we stand for. And we try our best to create an environment that could cultivate strong father activities. And so anytime that we're able to do that, I will tell you right now, it is such a moving experience. It has brought great inspiration to me. And you know, I'm fortunate because I'm in a position right now with the CUNY system, and this CUNY has a fatherhood initiative, and it has, you know, a male empowerment, my brother's keeper. You know, there's so many, you know, Black male initiative. There's so many support systems put in place. And I feel fortunate to be a person that's able to look at things from a strategic standpoint to see how it's all kind of culminates. And I really want to provide the thread that ties a lot of these support systems together with the resources, and make sure that it gets out. You know, I think there's a lot of systems in play, but I think, you know, one of the things that need to help it, you know, get out into the community is the system, right? The people that are benefiting from it and the people that add to it. So I feel very, very fortunate to be a cog in that machine and to help it drive to touch as many people as it possibly can.
You're impacting people through your fatherhood initiative, and not only through your fatherhood initiative, but also, what you do at Lehman College, and by way of community relations, and really stepping in and filling in the gap there. What do you feel is that impact that you're making right there at Lehman College with the work that you do?
Yeah, well, this is definitely different. Just I'm in the government affairs. I'm the director of government and community affairs. So, and we have a community person. So there's a new leg here at Lehman. We're really doing our best to make sure that we're extending ourselves to the community and making sure that the community knows that this is a home, that this is a place that it's welcome, right? And some of the things I'm fortunate enough to influence is some of that outreach efforts to make sure that the elected officials know where we are, and know that our home is their home. And I think as far as the community as well, to make sure that the community is knowing that what we're doing here is a great thing. Our doors are open, and how could we really go out and make an impact? One thing that we're going to do, we're going to try to increase our food pantry and our food insecurity by tackling and addressing the food insecurity with some of our, historic partners here in the Bronx. There's a food pantry, of course, the Hunts Point produce market, and bringing in good people around. And we're going to do our best to make sure that the resources that are right here within the school extend beyond the walls of our gates and extend beyond our territory, that the community feels at home here. And that's like something I'm feel very fortunate to do, to just kind of be the guy that shakes hands and stares people in the eyes and says, welcome. And, I feel like it goes very, very closely with my personal skill set. I'm a very gregarious, I'm a talkative person, and I'm a very welcoming person, and I care. And what has been the absolute joy for me in the short time that I've been here is just to see how many people care, and to see how caring the institution is. Just the Apex Center, how that is just a resource to the community at large. You could go get your workout on. People are running around the reservoir. Like, we're doing things to be outside, and I feel really proud to be a part of that.
Well, I want to let you know it's been great talking to you. Really, you're doing some great work in the community, and what you're doing is really making a difference, impacting from families to the work at the college, and want to wish you continued success. Thank you for explaining some of these things, because it's important to destigmatize some of these stereotypes that are out there, particularly when it comes to Black fathers and fathers being active in the lives of so many people. But Marques, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Shout out to my daughters, Ariana and Aaliyah. In many parts, they've inspired the fatherhood journey, and they have been the fire beneath my sails, so to speak. So shout out to my daughters.
All right. Huge shout out there. Well, listen, we want to take a quick break. We'll be back with more with the social justice forums. Thanks to Marques again. We'll be back with another guest right after this.
Thank you.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's start time for dinner.
Oh, it's really good. Take those.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper. I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
Analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I'm more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
And welcome back. The Alliance for Positive Change is a not-for-profit organization and multi-service group that's providing low-income New Yorkers living with HIV and AIDS and chronic conditions with access to quality health care, housing, and a path to jobs. Now, a federal 340B drug pricing program has given low-income patients and their communities necessary resources and services through discounted drug prices. On April 1st, a carve-out of this benefit will take effect if the state does not permanently repeal it and replace it. Joining us now is the Alliance for Positive Change's Program Manager of Criminal Justice Initiative. We're pleased to have Eugene Epps, and then also the Director of Administration, Brooke Montes. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Daren.
All righty. Well, Eugene, take it away a little bit. For somebody who may not be so familiar with the Alliance for Positive Change, walk us through a little bit about the organization and how you serve the community.
I love that organization. So we primarily serve a community with New York City residents that has chronic illnesses. We serve the Black, Hispanic, Latino community. We also have supportive services at the Alliance for Positive Change. And we also serve the English and Spanish speaking bilingual. Each person we serve, we meet them where they're at.
And Brooke, for yourself, your work with the organization, talk to us a little bit about the work that you do.
Yeah, so I work with Eugene, and as the Director of Administration, I also oversee our treatment adherence program for people living with HIV to have access to medication through pharmacy access, supportive services, and really addressing anything they may need that would keep them from taking medication, like food and nutrition, housing, care coordination, and peer navigation.
And so we talked a little bit in the intro about the 340B program. So for somebody who may not be so familiar, Brooke, how does the 340B program work?
Yeah, so 340B is a federal program that allows safety net providers like Alliance for Positive Change, other health clinics, HIV clinics, to purchase medication at a discounted price and get reimbursed at a higher rate. We then take that savings and we increase access to medication, low-cost medication or no cost, and other supportive services that really address the health disparities that would not otherwise be reimbursed. For Alliance, that means healthy meals, transportation, the peer workers and community health workers, and also the treatment adherence program and pharmacy access center that I oversee.
And so there is a potential impact that comes through this. And I want to let our viewers know a little bit more about, from your perspective, how you feel this will impact the community and those that you serve.
Yeah, so the impact is going to be really devastating. What the state is trying to do is carve out the pharmacy benefit from Medicaid managed care into a fee-for-service model starting April 1st. So that would prohibit safety net providers like Alliance for Positive Change to access those 340B savings that we reinvest in care. It also would disintegrate the care for thousands of Medicaid beneficiaries across New York State. And it's really just bad public health policy. But for Alliance specifically, it would totally dismantle our treatment adherence program. For the 1,000 people in the program who take their HIV medication every day, 95% are undetectable. So the amount of virus that's in their blood is not detected. And that's good for positive health outcomes for the individual and the community at large. So this carve out really is just taking money out of community and the supportive services of the community and sending it back to Albany, to DC, so that the state can try to manage it.
Yeah. And I want to bring Eugene in and talk about this from his perspective. How do you feel that this will impact yourself and others?
Well, I'm hearing negative things, especially from my clients that I serve. And then some negative impact things that we're hearing from the clients and myself included is, do we forget about the ETE, ending the epidemic? Like all of the work that we put into help to end the epidemic would just be thrown out the window. And, my clients are saying the AIDS cases may rise again. We didn't hear anything about AIDS cases, but the AIDS cases will arise. U equals U, transmittable, undetectable equals untransmittable. So people have a viral load. Now, we're gonna have another epidemic. We just came through a pandemic, and it's just all the way around the board bad for our clients. Time wasted, chasing our tails. And some clients are saying that it's a ploy for population control. They worried about their health and possibly dying.
And there's a message that, I know you guys are trying to get out in terms of elected officials and community. Brooke, what's been the response as you begin to share your concerns, particularly amongst government and community?
Yeah, so Alliance for Positive Change is a member of the Save New York Safety Net Coalition, and together we are calling on the governor and our state legislator to reject the pharmacy carve-out. Our very own Senator Rivera of the Bronx has introduced a bill S5136, and our health chairs in the Senate and Assembly have put a rejection in the One House budget. So we really thank them for leading the charge, and we want to call on them and the governor to stop the carve-out before April 1st. Providers are facing a fiscal cliff, but even more importantly, as Eugene highlighted, the people who rely on our services will be forced to use the state system, call a 1-800 number if they have issues accessing their medication, when the program and the services should really stay in the community and stay with safety net providers.
And Eugene, what are you doing in terms of talking to your clients? I mean, you already said what some of them think, some of them feel, what you yourself feel. How are you getting the word out amongst your clients? And do you find that your clients are going to be actively involved in raising their voice to this?
Well, I think, yeah, we already active in raising our voices. We in Albany, we at speak outs, we at meetings, we active when we can be in the community on top of serving the clients. And it's tough, to manage. We just came out of a pandemic. We just started getting back to work, and we have this. It's like, what do we do? But keep fighting. The line, since I been there and since I came there, it has taught me resilience. We figure out we have a problem. We figure out what we're gonna do, and then we bring up a team that's going to fight for, what's right for our people. And I don't think we deserve to suffer.
Brooke, for yourself, take us back to the time of COVID, and really now that we're on the downhill slope of it. What was it like for the organization? How was the organization impacted in terms of being able to provide services and meet your constituents?
Yeah, that's so important. And I will highlight that this proposed carve out was an idea that was pre-COVID. So right now we've really seen that health inequities have been exacerbated and really highlighted during the pandemic. So to take a carve out from the people who need it, that really were the hardest hit from the pandemic, is just really bad policy. Also, the 340B savings allow safety net providers like Alliance for Positive Change to address public health crises as they happen. So when the pandemic happened, we were able to use that 340B savings to have access to testing, to treatment, to the vaccination, and we were able to do that like in real time. So if 340B were to go away, the same thing with MPOX, we wouldn't have that ability to address public health issues when they arise.
Yeah. And Eugene, for yourself, hearing what's going on and hearing the impact that potentially could happen by this possible legislation going through, for yourself, who's been a part of this, how has the organization actually impacted your life?
Well, in a great way. I'm just as impacted. I've served 15 years in prison. I came to the organization looking for housing, independent housing, and they helped me through all of that. They helped me through job training. I did the peer training, peer education recovery program. I did health coach. You name it. They just encouraged me on my way to live healthy, and I'm with them.
Yeah, yeah. And Brooke, for yourself, obviously, a lot of time and effort is going into bringing awareness to this particular issue. Are you optimistic that something will happen before the deadline?
I am. I really want our elected officials to help do the right thing for the people and the communities who rely on them. So really, we're not giving up the fight. We're calling on the governor and our state senators and state assembly people to help push forward the alternative plan. It really does have broad stakeholder support. And actually, I explained this issue to a friend, and she asked me what's best for the consumer. And I can honestly say, for consumers and for New Yorkers as a whole, the stakeholder supported alternative is the best thing. By keeping the mechanism in managed care, it helps us to address these social determinants of health inequities for the people who really need us and rely on us.
So, Eugene, for the people who are out there right now who may want to be galvanized to get on board and really support after seeing and watching this, what do they do? How do they become a part of raising their voice?
If you want to raise your voice, you could go to www.alliance.nyc. You could go on newyorksafetynet.com. You could also Google information about your state senator for information to get on board with us. Or you could visit one of our 6 sites. We have 6 sites around New York City. You could visit one of those sites and meet with someone down there.
All right, we want to make sure that people get tapped in there, because certainly as we continue to raise our voice about this issue and bring it to light, I think there are some that are going to want to join in on the chorus that's already been out there. Brooke, yourself, the organization. Alliance, talk to me, Brooke. What do you have coming up in the future? I know this is a heavy issue that we got at the forefront, but there's still more work to do throughout the year.
Right. We're going to continue standing up for the New Yorkers who rely on us. As Eugene mentioned, we have 6 sites across the city, including supportive housing in the Bronx. So really expanding access to our workforce initiative so people can get job training, supportive employment to get back to work. Also through our Lower East Side Harm Reduction Center, we're helping to address the overdose crisis, providing Narcan training, providing overdose prevention toolkits. So really, we're here for the people who rely on us to increase access to healthcare and help people live healthy lives and really pursue their chosen pathway to positive change.
Yeah. And Eugene, from you who work firsthand with clients, talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you're facing in getting the work done, and some of the real challenges that are prevalent among some of your constituents.
Some of the prevalent things that that's challenging is housing. Housing has been a challenging thing for our clients. Myself, I had housing challenges. That's what led me primarily to the Alliance. from the beginning, but we work through a foundation, building a foundation. Without a foundation, everything else is shaky. So we work on our foundation.
Yeah. And so people will definitely be taking part in listening more about the 340B program. Certainly want to allow our viewers to tap into Alliance. And once again, Brooke, for people who want to get in touch, how do they go about getting in touch with you and Alliance?
Great. If you would like to get in touch with the Alliance, it's www.alliance.nyc. And if you want to take action to save New York Safety Net, it's saveNYSafetyNet.com.
All right. Well, Brooke, Eugene, I want to thank you both for taking the time and sharing with us. Very important topic, 340B. Glad that we can enlighten our viewers as to the impact that it would have within the community. So thank you so much for being with us. And we'll definitely stay connected and follow this story.
And come on, Bronx, help us out, Bronx.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Brooke, all right. Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you, Daren.
All righty, listen, we're taking a quick break. We do have more show. We don't want you to go anywhere. We will continue with more on the Social Justice Forum right after this.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, amigo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about poor Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
Sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug, you know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
And welcome back. The Bronx-wide Coalition is a coalition of faith, labor, and organizations from across the borough of the Bronx. Now, the coalition seeks to build a democratic economy which centers on racial justice and cooperative ownership, supports freedom and promotes dignity and well-being for the many, for the profits of a few. I should say, the profits of a few. And joining us now, we're pleased to have the Senior Director for Planning and Education at Bronx Cooperative Development Initiative, Evan Casper-Futterman, and then also Delegate at Bronx-wide Coalition, Sonyi Lopez. And we welcome you both to the show, and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you for having us here, Daren.
Thank you. And Sonyi, you're no stranger, so I'm gonna go right at you because you do this. And talk to me a little bit about the Bronx-wide plan.
Sure. Thank you, Daren, for having us. So as you said, Daren, I'm a delegate for We Stay Nos Quedamos and the Bronx-wide Coalition. And the Bronx-wide plan is basically a set of proposals to help Bronxites take the lead on improving the Bronx. You know, often here in the Bronx, decisions are made without Bronx residents and without Bronx community members being involved in the process. So the plan is a set of ideas and proposals surrounding education and the workforce, energy and environment, food, health, housing and land justice, manufacturing and technology, and transportation and mobility. All of the sectors in our community that would help us, live in the Bronx easier, breathe easier in the Bronx. And that's what the plan primarily is. It's a collection of ideas and a platform.
Yeah. Yeah, several platforms. And, when we talk about justice and really bringing about equality, I heard you say, and I think I'll let Evan chime in a little bit more about this, decisions are sometimes made, not sometimes, I've done this long enough, they're done a lot of times. And many times those persons who live in the community, work in the community, are really not even included in the plan. So give me from your perspective, Evan, how this really addresses that need.
Yeah, so the Bronx has a really strong history of planning, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword. The Bronx has been planned for, and the Bronx people in the Bronx here have done our own planning historically, right? All the way going back to the Cross Bronx Expressway, the people of Tremont made their own neighborhood plan for the future of the highway and their neighborhoods, and they were ignored, obviously, right? And Robert Moses built the highway straight through the center of the Bronx and all of those communities. People of the South Bronx, of the North Bronx, have created their neighborhood plans throughout the generations, right? Throughout the last several decades. And these plans sometimes win, they sometimes lose. But one of the things we've seen is that people in the Bronx are planners. And if you don't have your own plan, you're being planned for. And we see that over and over again, when people in the Bronx aren't stepping up in their neighborhoods to lead and create their own vision and organize to win that vision for their neighborhood and their community, bad things happen, and other people's voices and other people's ideas end up coming to the fore. And we see that there's a tremendous amount of activity happening right now in the Bronx, across the Bronx. In the North Bronx, you've got Fordham Landing and the Kingsbridge Armory, which are very active development processes right now. In the South Bronx, you have tremendous amounts of new real estate towers and rents rising. In Hunts Point, you have the Hunts Point Forward Plan that's making tremendous changes that are to come for the Hunts Point area. You've got the new Metro North stops, throughout the East Bronx. There's a tremendous amount of activity slated for the future. And what we're seeing is that it is now a time to not only plan in our neighborhoods, but to plan together as one Bronx. And so this coalition came together several years ago in 2018, 2019, with that idea in mind, is we have to build long-term visionary infrastructure, because if we are not the ones planning for our own future, we are being planned for, and we've seen the results of what that looks like over time.
Evan, I want to bring to light this word that's called economic democracy. And from your perspective, how do you break down that word, economic democracy?
Yeah, so economic democracy is this concept where people are often like, I know what that means. And that's a real complex term, and we often get a lot of that kind of, how are you going to explain it and break it down? Economic democracy it's a bit of a paradox, is actually lived daily by thousands of Bronx residents and throughout our city. So the Bronx has a strong history of building shared ownership and building community institutions. The Bronx has a strong history of building cooperative credit unions, right? If you remember BethX from the long-term history that BethX, there's now a group that's one of our proposals on our economic development plan, looking to bring back that history, that legacy of community-owned financial institutions, bring back a Bronx People's Credit Union to the borough after the closing of BethX. The Bronx has a long history of building cooperative housing, from amalgamated housing in the Northwest Bronx, to the many sweat equity buildings that were taken over by residents of the South Bronx when landlords abandoned them. All of those, what are called HDFCs, or limited equity cooperatives. The HDFC is the official term. To the Northeast Bronx, a co-op city, the largest cooperative housing development in the world. All of this providing permanently affordable, dignified housing for people, for thousands of people across the borough. The largest worker-owned business in the country, Cooperative Home Care Associates in Fordham Plaza, just down the road from my house and my office, which provides home care services with higher wages, better benefits, lower turnover in their company, and they do it all by being one of the best employers in the field for home care. They do it by being union, and they do it by being worker-owned. And so economic democracy is about owning and determining together the conditions of our economic lives. It's that principle of democracy that we so often say is missing and could be deepened in our political sphere. It's taking that concept and applying it to our everyday economic lives. And people will say, oh, that's so foreign to the Bronx. But actually what we're saying is there's a strong history of that here in the Bronx, and it needs to be deepened and expanded if we're going to have a different kind of Bronx future than what we've seen happen in places like Western Queens and downtown Brooklyn, where gentrification and development as usual has often been the norm.
Yeah. Sonyi, let me bring you in and talk a little bit about some of the things that we're talking here. With regards to some of these things, we talk about democratic participation and really having a voice. And when you look at the multitude of issues that really are on the table, break down a couple of them from your perspective, and what would you like to see happen?
Absolutely, Daren. So, to start, I live in the South Bronx, where there's a lot of new development coming up here, and we can't afford these apartments. We can't afford the rent out here, and we're not really part of the development and the proposals where these buildings are going up. And also, we don't have access to the South Bronx waterfront in the South Bronx. And within those proposals are, things like the South Bronx Community Land Act. That will propose that Bronxites have access to the land here, and that we can also take ownership of a center that's been abandoned here, the Lincoln Detox Center, and create what's called the Heart Center, a health, education, and art center. And it's possible. We know that self-determination and community ownership is possible. And for decades, the Bronx has been neglected, as Evan shared, that history. And that line of investment could shift the trajectory of our neighborhoods. And in the North Bronx, the reason why we're a Bronx-wide coalition and a Bronx-wide plan is because we want the entire Bronx to be involved in this process, not just some catchment areas like the South Bronx and the North Bronx alone, but everyone in the Bronx to be involved in this process. So, as I shared earlier too, Daren, I'm part of Nos Quedamos. We stay Nos Quedamos in this group. And in Melrose here, for as long as I've been born, as long as I've been alive, they've been doing work for 30 years now. Because a group of Bronx residents came together in 1992, when the city created an urban renewal plan in our neighborhoods in Melrose, and they decided that they wanted to oppose, the community members and residents opposed the plan that the city proposed for them, and they created their own plan. And what did the city do? They dropped their plans and decided to include the residents after they spoke out and said, hey, you need to include us. We're living here, we're working here, we're praying here, and we would like to be a part of this process. So I definitely would love to see more of that, and I know that it's possible because we're making it happen every single day here in the Bronx.
There is a huge fear amongst Bronxites and across New York City about gentrification. You look around and you see these new developments going up, but you do have people who are existing and sometimes can't even afford the high price of rent, the increasing rent that goes on. And there's a great fear that in the years to come, we talk about the South Bronx, the Piano District. We've talked about this many times before in areas where you've seen low-income families, instead of tending to the neighborhood, there almost seems to be a push to get people out of the neighborhood. I want to get your thoughts a little bit on the development rather than displacement argument that needs to be made and that needs to be shared by so many.
Absolutely, Daren. I think that there is a possibility for development without displacement. Right across the street from these towers that I was referring to, the arches specifically in the South Bronx, we have the projects, NYCHA, where we have the most affordable housing in the entire world, in the entire country, NYCHA. And it's been disinvested in, not funded in, but we have these new buildings coming up that are being funded in, and we don't have any parts in it. The community cannot live in these spaces. So development without without displacement can happen. And one of the ways to do that is through, being sure that you support Land Act, the Community Land Act, and the land trust proposal that's part of our proposal plan. There are so many other proposals. We have 21 on our website, bronx.consider.it. And the plan's website is also Bronx, help me out here, I forgot the name of Bronx-wide-plan.nyc, my bad. But I just want to invite community members to check out the website and also see all these plans and proposals that are here for us to take community ownership of plans and to make sure that housing can be affordable and that there are possibilities for this to happen in our borough.
And Evan, there are some public meetings that people can actually come and be a part of.
Yes, that's right. So this coalition's work began way back in 2019, and one of the most powerful moments for us was as COVID came through and all of our events had to switch to being on Zoom and virtual. We held one of our first biggest events in January 2021. 350 people joined us via Zoom from across the Bronx and actually across the world for that January 2021 meeting. And we're starting up public meetings in person now after sort of being unsure of how to move together on Zoom, in person, what was safe, what was appropriate. We're starting public meetings now April 5th, 6 p.m. at the YMCA La Centrale. It's 434 Westchester Avenue. So Wednesday, April 5th, we're going to have our first public campaign meeting. We're going to move into this new phase of our work together, building out, launching this plan, helping people understand what we're about, and building the Bronx-wide power we need to win it for the future.
When we talk about community, obviously, that's what we need: community engagement, community awareness. And that's a part of your job, really, is to really make the community more aware, get them galvanized and active. We talk about promoting community engagement. I want to hear from both of you on this area of community engagement, because when you have an organization such as yours that prides itself on that, how successful are you when you raise these issues amongst the community of really seeing a response from people who say, listen, I want to have my voice heard, I will do what it takes, as opposed to sitting back and waiting to see what happens?
Yep, I think that's so important to highlight, Daren. Thank you for asking that. As Evan said, this started in 2018, this group, but we have actually engaged the community in the process of creating these proposals, and these proposals came from community ideas. So people sharing their ideas and writing their ideas down, and us taking them and compiling them and creating 21 proposals. There could have been 100 more, right? And there will be. There's time for us to create proposals together. But out of those community envisioning sessions, 21 proposals came from that. So now it's important that we re-engage the community now that they're all compiled into 21 proposals, so that they can choose which ones are low priority and which ones are high priority. So we're not necessarily voting on which ones to remove and which ones to keep, because we're going to have an opportunity to revisit every single proposal and even come up with new ideas together in future sessions. But I think it's super important to involve the community. I'm a community member. I'm a delegate for an organization, but I also live in the South Bronx. And I think that my voice is important, and my neighbors' voices are important in this process. So I hope that a lot of people come out on April 5th to the YMCA La Central and join us at our event, our public event.
Yeah. Evan, as you look right now, we know the government plays a huge part in legislating and bringing these things to come to pass. And as we engage the community, it's also having to engage with elected officials and making sure that those persons who are making those decisions are making those decisions on behalf of those people who we serve. Give us a little bit about this here. What's the response that you get from elected officials as we hear these community inputs, these community ideas, and they're being submitted upward? What are you getting back from elected officials? Are they attentive or are they dismissive?
Yeah, so I just want to go first and start off with what Sonyi was saying, and just say something about this participatory process and the role of engagement, which is, people are, I think, rightfully a little can feel burned or distrustful of engagement processes because they're often being asked for input, but they're not being allowed to really understand the scope of the process or be in a real decision-making role to build collective community power to envision both the process and the outcomes. And so people often say, well, what's really going to happen here, right? Or how is this going to really work? Well, they don't listen to us. And so what we're doing is building that Bronx-wide civic vehicle to say, if we build that infrastructure, if we build that community civic power, it is not it cannot be stopped. It is a force to be reckoned with, but it takes work. And so that is the work we're putting in, is people have to see the ability to be powerful together, and that it's not just about one individual person making a difference, but all of us and our work together. And elected officials recognize this, right? So we have, it's a new day in the Bronx. We've got a lot of new elected officials and new leadership. And I think people are genuinely excited by the opportunity to meet on the terrain of what are, at the overlap and the intersection of what is needed across the entire Bronx, and also what is needed in my district, right? So if you're an elected official, you have multiple competing interests, you have multiple competing goals, you have the needs of your district, you have the needs of your committee, you have multiple things to contend with and consider. And what we're trying to say is, we're bringing to the table ideas. We want to work with you. Let us figure out how to make this happen, because other boroughs have had the opportunity to get this kind of investment in their past. There was a plan in several years ago called Vital Brooklyn, over $1 billion of investment in central Brooklyn. There was a newly announced recent plan called Queens Forward that the borough president of Queens announced with support from the governor just in January of this year. And so we're saying, we're bringing the ideas to the table. We have a framework we deeply believe in about building community wealth and economic democracy. And it's time for the Bronx to get our share of those public resources to support the kind of shared ownership and equitable future that the Bronx needs to be successful.
So let me ask a question about how people can actually tap in and be a part of the work that's going on, raising their voice, becoming more aware, and getting this information that's so vital to where they live.
So we have our public meeting coming up on April 5th at 6 p.m. It'll be held at YMCA La Central, and the address is 434 Westchester Avenue. And there we're going to be able to have a public community event where we can talk about the proposals that are on the website. We can answer any questions that people have about the coalition and about the plans and the proposals. And just to list a few, if we have some time there, and just to list some of the proposals, they're the South Bronx Land Community Resource Trust, Food, Fashion, and Fabrication District. We have the Kingsbridge Armory there. We have the Capping the Cross Bronx Expressway proposal. So many different proposals. Evan mentioned another one, the Bronx People's Credit Union, Canna Bronx, which is about the cannabis being now legal in New York City. We want to make sure that community members have an ability for community ownership of certain things when it comes to cannabis, and so many more. But you can check them out at bronx.consider.it, and also visit our website, bronxwideplan.nyc, for more information.
Well, Evan, Sonyi, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and certainly great work that's going on. And it's important that residents of the Bronx have their voices heard, but not just have their voices heard, but really see some action for what they put input in. I can't agree with you too much more than to say that when we do look around, so many times we do find that the input is given, and then all of a sudden somebody makes a decision, and many times decisions are made, and the person that's making the decision is clueless as to what is going on in the background. But thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and certainly we're going to follow up and find out how things work out. So thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Daren, thank you.
All righty. We want to let our viewers know we come to the end of our show today, and we hope that you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Bronx Social Justice Forum. And we've come to the place that if you want to rewatch the episode, yes, you can rewatch today's edition. You can catch Recablecast here on BronxNet Television, and also on BronxNet.org. If you want to join the conversation, or you want to present your point of view and have your voice heard, give some input, of course, feel free to go to our social media platforms. And join us next week. We're going to continue to elevate the conversation, more civic engagement, and more issues that matter to you right here on the Social Justice Forums. I'm Daren Jaime, saying take care, and God bless, and thank you for watching.